Hi, weekend, everybody. Rodger and Chris Honorado on 104.5 The Team, ESPN Radio, as we cruise through here on the Monday edition. And this is kind of the home of, when I think of hockey, I do think of Barry Melrose, our guy up in Glens Falls, man.
Great hair.
I've always wanted to do two things, play golf and have a beer with Barry Melrose. Now, I know our next guest, John Buccigross, has probably done those many times over. Our SportsCenter anchor and the Frozen Four play-by-play, and certainly one of the faces on ESPN. You see him all the time, and he joins us here on Big Board Sports. Good morning, John. How are you?
Good, thank you.
So what can you tell me about Melrose? What's it like to play golf and have a couple of beers with that guy?
Oh, yeah, he's a certified beauty, for sure. Fun to play golf with, loose. He might walk and talk in your backswing. He'll go in motion a lot, like I like to say. He runs a motion offense. And, but yeah, he's a great guy, giving guy, and it's been great to be associated with him for 20 years.
Well, I know when we talked to you, John, we talked some college hockey, and around here it's Union and it's RPI. And just looking at a list that we put together of former Union players who are getting it done at the next level. Mike Vecchione will sign a 2-year deal to stay with the Flyers, and you got Josh Jooris will sign a 1-year deal with Carolina, and former Union defenseman Matt Bodie gets a 2-year contract from Tampa. There's a lot of Union players here that have succeeded at the next level. How about we start there?
Yeah, they've really built, it started with Nate Lehman, and he kind of got the ball rolling there. He's now in Providence. And Spencer Foo's another guy who's going to play at the next level as well. It's obviously a cool little community and an awesome little rink. They play in a conference that is producing NHL players, the ECAC. So, there's no reason why they can't continue to build on that tradition they've kind of developed here with the national championship and the NHL players you've talked about. And once you start getting pictures in your locker room and in your hockey facilities of players raising Stanley Cups and certainly just wearing NHL uniforms, that's gonna be a big impact. The Union's a unique, special place, and they won't get the giant pool maybe of recruits or prospects, but they're going to get a smaller pool of kids who really want to get a great degree and really want to get great education. They're among the favorites in that pool, and that's the thing. The riches are in the niches, and you want to become a niche where you're really the best niche of what people are looking for.
Yeah, people always ask me how do they do it without giving scholarships? I'll ask you that question. How are they able to attract these student athletes, phenomenal hockey players to Union without giving scholarships?
Right. Well, obviously, some players have parents who are well off, let's face it, and they can afford the tuition. Financial aid, certainly people qualify for that. And you can obviously some schools at all kinds of different levels, even Division III football. Some schools are very, quote-unquote, aggressive, giving financial aid, obviously where scholarships aren't a part of the plan. So, there's ways you can kind of get around it, but in the end, parents and kids want the great education, and they'll make it happen as long as it's not impossible, and they can cobble it together. And a kid has a chance to play, because that's another thing. A kid wants to play, parents want to support their kid playing, and they won't mind paying, especially if they can obviously afford it easily. They'll probably pay the tuition. But even it's a bit of a challenge and not real easy, they'll still do it, so their kid has a chance to play and get a great education. So there'll always be a spot for a place like Union.
ESPN's John Buccigross here with us on 104.5 The Team, ESPN Radio. Obviously a huge supporter of college hockey. You'll remember, Capital Region listeners, he donated $2,500 to the RPI women's hockey team so they could get new road and third alternate jerseys back in March, and all that done through his website, Bucci-Mane.com. It is a hockey charity website where he sells great garb, especially the hashtag college hockey is I'm sure a huge seller. John, but I want to turn your attention to the NHL and the Rangers being a regional team of interest here in the Capital Region. Your thoughts on the signing of Kevin Shattenkirk, who of course brings along huge name recognition, but what he might do on the ice for that team.
Yeah, he's obviously one of the best power play quarterbacks in the NHL. Something they could really use back there. A real high-end power play guy to score power play goals or help score power play goals. And he'll do that. He's one of the best in the NHL. A great quarterback, a great feel for the game. obviously foot speed and being a guy who can play 5-on-5 against the other team's top players. He's not that kind of defenseman, so that does limit him a bit. But just a really smart offensive player who will help the offensive players on the team who want to play with a guy like him, who can find them and help spur great offensive plays with big shot passes and shots towards the net getting through. So just a good offensive player, a good upgrade. He's not Ryan McDonough, who's going to be Superman back there on defense in front of Henrik Lundqvist and clearing out space and winning battles and providing the defense. But offensively, he's going to provide them with a spark and a dynamic that every team, really likes to have. And it's just another piece. It's a good player. You want to keep adding good players, whatever your team is in any sport.
John, how close, with a lot of Ranger fans around here, how close are the Rangers? Do you like the recent moves that they made? How close are they to making a deep run?
Obviously they were a 100-point team last year. They were, certainly one of my playoff locks to make the postseason. Things are obviously changing now because they just weren't able to make the runs they wanted, or they wanted to kind of get ahead of the future. Derek Stepan, a very good player. Obviously, they probably wanted more offensively, and that's one reason why they dealt him. So they're trying to get, younger at the same time and speed. That's what the Rangers really try to do. They try to kind of rebuild and reshape on the fly because, their fans are so great. They charge a lot for tickets. They create a lot of revenue. So they want to keep giving those fans who buy those expensive lower bowl season tickets triple-digit ticket numbers. They want to keep those fans coming, and they don't want to really lose that much of a beat. So that's always a risk. You try to reshape your team a little bit, get someone, step in leaves, and you replace with somebody else. They can sometimes go the other way. Sometimes they're not good, but sometimes they can just kind of go out the other way with an injury, and it takes a while for chemistry. And his Hank Lundqvist game got a slip because he's had so much high-stressed hockey that can sometimes burn out a goalie. As they age into their mid-30s, that has to be a concern. So, there's a couple question marks there. They have a lot of good players, and I still like them, but there's still concern as once you start replacing key parts with new parts.
Time with John Buccigross, SportsCenter anchor. Speaking of good players, what are your thoughts on the Canadians who are ready to sign Carey Price to the richest deal ever for a goaltender at 8 years, $84 million?
Yeah, $10.5 million for one player when he's not even a skater. I mean, that puts you a little bit behind the eight ball. Look at someone like the Penguins. Basically you have, Chris Letang and Matt Murray just about equal Carey Lundqvist or Carey Price. So there, that's just a big advantage when you have an extra. It's almost like an extra player when your goalie is in that $4 to $5 million area, or especially when they're down to 3.5 if they're young. Really take advantage of a young goalie. Or the Blackhawks for a while didn't really just kind of went with any goalie, a young Corey Crawford, Antti Niemi, so that they could afford an extra skater, a really good skater, because they weren't playing their goalie that much. So when you start with your goalie at 10.5, and then obviously you got to pay the backup almost at least $1 million. So now you have $11.5 million worth of goaltending. That's a lot of money, and that's going to affect your forward depth. And you better get that position right. And so it's interesting. The cap isn't really going up, but we're seeing these salaries go. Connor McDavid looks like it's going to be around $13.5 million, and in the short term, that's going to cause some issues for these teams. Now it's up for the owners and the GMs to say to the owners and the league, all right, let's try to create more revenue. How creative can we get to create more revenue so we can get this cap up, so you can help my team out, so we can win? So that's what's going to come down to it. If you have owners who want to win, they know they're going to have to raise that cap, and the only way to raise that cap is to create more revenue. So if they can somehow be creative and figure that out, then that'll help.
John, last thing from us. We'll let you get out of here on this. I know you've been to both RPI and Union recently to see games, and if anybody watches you on SportsCenter or follows you on Twitter, we know your affinity for chicken parm. There's some good Italian eating in both Schenectady and Troy. Have you had a chance to stop into any of the local joints?
When I went to the RPI game a couple years ago, I did stop at a joint to have some parm. I can't remember the name. It was in the downtown area, somewhat right around the rink, up on a hill, if I remember a little bit. Then I go left and went down the street and found an Italian place that had some pregame parm. The obvious choice of a carb protein pregame meal or postgame meal. It's nature's perfect food, chicken parm. And so I did do that, and I've got to come back up to my boy Dave Smith and what he's going to do at RPI. He's going to do great things there. And so I will be back. And I usually, when I go out to eat, I take pictures of menus so I remember where I was. And that's kind of a Bucci move, take a picture of the menu. But I don't think I did that night. So we'll be back. I love both Schenectady. And I love RPI. I love Union. I'll be back. Love those old school rinks.
And hey, just to touch real quickly, you like the hire over at RPI?
Yeah, Dave's a first class guy. Works great with goaltenders, which obviously you need goaltending, and you know he'll do really well. He's got an interesting kind of a laid back touch. He's one of those guys you think, well, he's not really trying that hard. You know, okay, you look at him, but it's more of his personality, and he's going to get it done. He's a winner, and RPI will be back soon. If he gets the support from the school that every school needs, spend a little bit of money, and I know there's great alums there that are willing to do that and step up like they have, and then some good times ahead for RPI.
Scotty's is the spot in Schenectady.
There you go.
No E in Scotty's, just an I''S. That's the spot in Schenectady.
Boom, I'm there.
Thank you, John. We appreciate a few minutes here on 104.5 at Team ESPN Radio.
Happy 4th, boys.